You are listening to Attractive Relationships, the podcast where we dive deep into the art and science of relationships and communication. I'm Rico Armstrong, your host and advocate for attractive, happy relationships. In a world where relationships play a crucial role in our personal and professional lives, understanding how to communicate to connect with others is essential. Transform your communication skills to increase your social status, your social confidence, and help you gain the best relationships you can have. Welcome to Attractive Relationships. How does a 9-year marriage fail and end with a crash? I want to tell you this story because maybe it'll give a little bit of a hint and an insight into how a marriage can last that long and potentially longer, hopefully longer. But also, if you are looking to find a marriage partner or a longtime life partner, maybe within that you can find what actually works to make a marriage and relationship last. But maybe just as important or more is avoiding the mistakes that cause a relationship to end. And that's why I'm going to tell you the story of what happened of a 9-year marriage that ended. And it was my marriage that ended because at the end of that, maybe what I want most is if this story resonates with you and if you are in a marriage right now or a relationship right now and it's long term, what I can tell you is that the thoughts that I had through the divorce process were the darkest thoughts I had ever had in my entire life. And they were so dark that I refused to tell anybody about it. That's how dark they were. And if this story resonates with you, I don't want you to feel like you are by yourself or alone. And so that's why I share this story with you to see if it helps, and for no other reason. And if it doesn't help, then that's fine. Like I don't do this to curry pity. But let's get into it. A 9-year marriage fails. Here's how it started. It started like a lot of love stories. You know, I was looking for somebody to spend my life with at a young age. And after dating a few women, I got frustrated, like a lot of people do. And I just was like, I'm not looking to date anymore. What I ended up doing is just focusing on myself, focusing on things that interested me. And of course, that's when love comes to find you when you're not looking for it. And I met this woman who I won't name because she's not a part of my life. She's not a part of my future. And almost everybody that knows me today doesn't know who she is. And but what I really appreciated about her was how smart she was and how she had an ability to really help people who were in need. And at that time in my life, you know, my purpose was to help people. Um, and she helped me to help people, which is what I really wanted to do. It makes me the most fulfilled. And because of that, and because of her intelligence, and because of her knowledge of things in areas that I didn't have that kind of knowledge in, we just really worked well together that way. And so we fell in love and we got married. And then on our honeymoon, I got laid off of work. You know, here it is, we're supposed to go off to celebrate our marriage. And immediately she is now with a husband that has no job. How do you as a man, if you're a man listening to this, can you imagine what that feels like? That you have a brand new wife and no income to help provide and sustain her and the lifestyle that makes y'all happy, or to help pursue the goals that you guys originally intended to pursue through this marriage is now severely hampered by a lack of income. This happened in the year 2007, which was the Great Recession, the housing market bubble crash, if you can remember any of that, and jobs were very difficult to come by. I went into a deep depression because of that. And my wife, to her credit, didn't leave me. Not only did she not leave me, but she stayed by my side and never made me feel worse. She never made me feel less of a man or a husband, even though I was putting a lot of that on myself. And through this, the greatest depression that I personally have ever been through those many months, she was what I had known her to be prior to us being married, a person who loves to help people. And in this particular case, she was there to help me. It was about a year later before I found steady and consistent work again. But it wasn't too long after that where I started to regret the marriage in some ways. Because while I appreciated what she did for me, what I started to notice is that her need to be needed was an insatiable appetite that could not be filled. Right. So as I started to learn fitness and health and how to eat better and all the things that helped me to kind of overcome depression, I started to kind of emerge and as the man that I should be to be able to take a lead and to progress towards the goals and ambitions that I set out to do. And and that included the purpose of helping others. And when she saw that, like prior to, like she took a lot of pride in being the person in the house that kept things together. And now, as I'm able to do more things on my own, it affected her self image of her self worth. Right. If she's not helping me to do things, it was making her feel less than and making her feel worth less than she did before. I didn't understand that at the time. All I understood at the time was that it felt like she was smothering and it felt like she was trying to control me. And I'm saying, I don't need that kind of attention anymore. But I didn't understand. I didn't understand at the time. So how did our marriage stay together with that now being the dynamic and the constant tension so much that even my friends would begin to notice and call things out to me. The reason why our marriage was able to stay together is because even though that tension was there, again, the purpose of our marriage was to help people, and we were doing a better job of that together than we were apart when we were single. And again, that to me is the whole purpose of a relationship. It's not just about companionship, but it's how do we help each other do better together than we could have done separately? Because I have lots of friends that I can be companions with. I have people that I trust that I can confide in, and especially in today's age, it's like you don't need to be married to have sex. All right. But that's what some people do. All right. People exercise those options. So, like, if I'm going to marry you, it has to be more than just sex. It has to be more than just a confidant. You have to be somebody that's going to help me do better in life. And hopefully, and it should be that I can do the same for you. That's the purpose of marriage. And that purpose was sustained for 9 years. And then it all fell apart. How did that happen? How did that happen? It started when we planned to move away from Dallas, Texas, to a small town of Lubbock, Texas. If you don't know Lubbock, Texas, that's where A&M, the college A&M is at. It's a small college town. And the reason why we were going to move there is because the cost of living was less, which meant there's a better opportunity to free up our time to help people, right? We only needed one income instead of two. And if I was the one that was working, we could both then have more time to serve others. That was the whole goal. But to do that, we had to follow a plan. We had to get out of debt. We had to sell our modest little home that we had. I had to sell a truck that I loved in order to pay off the car payments that we had left and to basically be debt free. That was the plan. And that was also when I was like, okay, I'm going to be a personal trainer. I'm going to have a whole new career to help supplement the income to this other job that I had. And again, it was a whole plan. But then we didn't follow that plan that was going to help us to do better. My wife, who's, again, it's about 9 years now, married, she says, Rico, I would really like some furniture. We've had the same old furniture for 9 years. I want new furniture. And I said, babe, it's not in the plan. It's not in the budget. But I felt bad because I remembered back when we were first married and on my honeymoon, I got laid off and she never complained. She stood by me and I just could not forget that and how much I appreciated that. And now I'm going to tell my wife no when she's not really ever requested anything of material until now. I felt bad telling her no. So what I said is, okay, we can do that. But what this means is I'm going to have to work immediately on personal training as soon as we get to Lubbock. Like I'm going to have to get that job to make things work. If you can support me in that, we can make new furniture happen. She said, sure. But then when we got to Lubbock, my wife, who was supportive of me going to personal training because she saw how fitness and diet transformed my life and helped me overcome depression. One of the things that wasn't accounted for was the environment that a personal trainer would be in. Now, mind you, my wife had, over the time we've been married, gained 100 pounds. So she was about 170, 175 when we were married. By the time we got to Lubbock, she was 280. And that was something she was self-conscious about, but she wouldn't really say it out loud. And when I was about to get a job at Orange Theory Fitness in Lubbock, she went to take a class with me and she saw all the girls who were not 280 pounds in yoga pants and shorts and whatever. And it made her jealous. And then she started to sabotage my ability to find work in this small town of Lubbock, which didn't have very many options. And now, for the first time, supporting the plan that supports our purpose is now crumbling right in front of me. And as she made it difficult to get this job at Orange Theory, and again, there's not a whole lot of other options. Um, this went on for a few months. We went into debt buying furniture without clearing the debt of the car payment we had. And because I'm not working the extra that I was supposed to be working, and we've actually added debt and not got rid of old debt. All those things combined to we are struggling financially. Again, this is another component that is taking us away from our goal and purpose of the whole reason why we moved. And I told my wife, I said, we're really struggling. I can't find work in this small town because the one place that I could work that could provide doesn't exist. I need you to find work. You're somehow, some way. You've got skills as a massage therapist. You've got other great, phenomenal skills. You're super intelligent. You have more options than I do in this small town. I have to continue to travel to Dallas every week for the other job that I had. I just need your help through this process. And she said no to that. And again, lack of support to our purpose and our goal. Hey guys, real quick, I'd love to connect with you beyond these episodes, which is why I'm excited to tell you that Attractive Relationships recently started an exclusive newsletter just for you. You'll get behind the scenes stories and additional exclusive content to aid in building your personal attractive relationships. So if you'd like to be kept in the loop, simply click the link in the description below the episode. During that time, our car got repossessed, the car that we were 2 months away from paying off. It got repossessed because we couldn't make those last two payments on time. And then it was an embarrassing moment you can imagine, especially for her. Even though I told her these things could be coming if we don't do something soon. And then she started to secretly tell all my friends that the move was not good for me, that I started to go crazy, that depression started acting up, and I started to do irrational type behavior. I didn't even have a hint that she was doing that to some of my closest friends and family until randomly I got these phone calls of some of my closest friends calling me saying, "Hey, Rico, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, things are great. What's going on? Are you sure you're okay? You're okay, Rico?" Yeah, like, why do you, that's kind of odd that you would be so concerned, but no, everything's great. Oh, okay. Another friend called, "Rico, are you okay? Are you sure you're okay?" Another friend will call, "Are you sure you're okay?" And so I turned to my wife. I said, "Have you been saying something?" No, 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 no. I haven't been saying anything like that. Until finally, one of my friends who called said, "Well, your wife has been saying this, that, and the other." And so when I confronted her about it, it became an argument. And so again, when we're talking about working together for a purpose, the purpose is now changed. Instead of us working together to now help other people, she seemingly had the purpose to make herself look like a victim, and that I was the one making her the victim, that I was the one who was acting crazy and harming our family. And that really hurt. She denied it at first. Then she admitted to it. And we had a conversation that we don't want to air dirty laundry to everybody. Like, we should keep some things between us. And she agreed. But she lied. And for the first time ever, I've never done this before in 9 years. I've always trusted my then wife. But I had a suspicion that she was still spinning a narrative to make her a victim at the expense of my reputation. And then I confirmed it when, for the first time in 9 years, I went through her phone. And I'm not very proud of that part. But my intuition is usually spot on when it's very strong. And sure enough, I saw where she was telling a story towards other people. This is very vulnerable of me to share to you. I don't share this very often, and I'm surprising myself even as I tell you this, because one of the reasons why I've only shared this with a very small, intimate group of people is because you don't know my then wife, now my ex-wife, and she doesn't have an opportunity to defend herself. So you only have my word to take. But it's also another reason why I don't share her name. But this is what happened. These are just facts. So I confronted her about it, and we fought over that. She said she wouldn't do it again. But then a few weeks later, I get a long email, about 5 pages, from a friend who's known me since before my mother died, before I was 14 years old. She knew me that long. And she knew about my battle with depression. She knew a lot of my personal history. And because of what my then wife said to this friend, is why I got this long email that basically said, "Rico, get your shit together. Rico, you're harming your family. Rico, I can't believe you would." And I cannot describe the hurt that that happened. So I told my then wife, here's the email from mutual friend. And my then wife's response was, she wasn't supposed to share any of that with you. Like, not an apology for going back on her word or doing something she said she wouldn't. It was more like, oh, I wasn't supposed to get caught this way, is what it felt like the message was. And finally, what really broke, this was the real, I won't say the beginning of the end because the beginning of the end already started. But she told me to leave after we fought again. And I remember calling my dad and saying, she can't kick me out of my own house. I pay bills here too. And my dad, in his wisdom, said, Rico, you are a black man married to a white woman in a small town. If she were to decide to call the authorities, they will immediately take her word over yours. She's already calling you crazy. You need to leave. How do you refute that logic? So I left. We were separated. I still wanted to make the marriage work because I could not forget how loyal she was to me in the very beginning. I could not forget how, even though we had tension and friction, how we helped each other to pursue something that was so awesome and so great that would have been very difficult to do as individuals. And all the things that happened that I'm telling you now in Lubbock were in a span of about 3 months. Is our 9-year marriage really about to dissolve over 3 months to a crashing halt, no less? So we had a few conversations. I wanted to work it out. And I drove back out to Lubbock after I left. I left and I stayed with my dad for a little bit. And I drove back out to Lubbock to try to work things out. And I wanted a conversation face to face. And in that conversation, I said, we have a lot of issues. And I said, I'm willing to work through them. All I ask, the only thing that I ask is that we keep our issues in house. Like, you've talked to no less than a dozen people, but definitely more than that. I was like, if we can just keep it to like me, you, and maybe your parents who already know, or like, can we just keep it to that if you need to vent to somebody? And I'll never forget the words. And she said, no, very matter of fact. And what she said was, these friends that I now have, they are my family now. And that's the moment I knew that there was no reparations, there's no repair to this relationship. It was completely done. And the things that she ended up saying and after that were even more hurtful and more damaging. And the only way I can make sense of why she would do that after 9 years of somebody who was loyal to her, who was willing to do anything to support and be the best that I could, is that she was embarrassed over the car being repossessed because the real bad stuff started then. And her concern was less about me, and her concern was less about us pursuing a goal, but more about saving face and her reputation. Because until that point, she's always been the one who had that reputation of having everything in control, to be the one who can provide and be there for others, not someone who maybe needs to be pitied. And that car being repossessed was embarrassing. and made her image as one to be pitied. She couldn't handle it. At least that's what makes sense to me. But I felt so betrayed by the things that she said to our closest friends and family that I, like I said, I had the darkest thoughts I had ever had. And I consider that betrayal worse than infidelity itself. So I share this story with you, not because I want you to feel bad for me. I have since moved on. And I'm not trying to say this story to bash my ex-wife, even if that is what it seems like. There was a lot of good things to her too. It's just too bad that it ended the way it did. I share this story to say that what I had learned from that is what I've been telling you, that the most important part about a marriage and why you want to be in those relationships is not just to chase this feeling of love and excitement, because those things are fleeting and circumstances can change. But if you're marrying somebody, if you choose to be in a relationship with somebody that's a serious one, how does that person help you to achieve things greater than you could on your own? And how do you do that for them? Because as soon as our purpose of helping each other achieve those great things, as soon as there was a crack in that purpose, where it's that foundation started to crack, that's when the marriage started to fall apart. Can you support your person's image and likeness? Can you really make sure that their reputation among their friends and your friends is at the highest level possible? Because that's something else that I learned, is if you talk bad about your person, even if you repair the relationship, they still have to be among your friends who now think of your person differently. And that only hurts the ability to really pursue things with greatness. And if your person finds out about all the things that you said negative about them, the effect on that person can be so damaging that it could permanently stain or destroy your relationship. If you don't know what your true purpose is before you get into a relationship, figure that shit out. Figure it out. Because I truly believe, on everything that I've studied in the years since then. I got divorced in 2016. It's now 2024. And I've done a deep dive into communication and relationships to figure out where I went wrong, where the relationship went wrong. And one thing that I just keep coming back to is, one, communication is key. Two, having a purpose is essential for every relationship, whether it's a friend, whether it's a coworker, whatever. But it is at least 10 times more important when you're finding your romantic person, your life partner. You have to know what that is first before you can even think about having a successful relationship. If any of what I have told you resonates with you, please follow this podcast. And if you want to know more of the things that I have learned as far as communication and relationships, attracting the right kind of person in your life, in both romantic and personal and work life, please reach out, because helping people is my entire purpose in life. As we come to the end of another episode of Attractive Relationships, I want to express my gratitude to you for tuning in. Your support really does mean the world to me. Now, if this episode brought you any value, I would truly appreciate it if you shared this podcast with anyone that you think could benefit from our discussions on effective communication and relationship building. Until next time, remember, great relationships start with great communication. So stay curious, stay compassionate, and keep building those attractive relationships.